What if I told you you're not tired because life is hard? You're tired because you're fighting battles you were never meant to win. See, most of us wake up every day with this tight grip on how things should be, how people should treat us, how plans should unfold, how life should go our way. And when it doesn't, we panic, we overthink, we spiral. But here's the hard truth. The more you try to control everything, the more exhausted you become, because control is a trap. It promises security, but delivers anxiety. It looks like strength, but it's just fear in disguise. Have you ever clung so tightly to something, a relationship, a goal, an outcome, that it slipped right through your fingers? That's not weakness. That's a sign you're holding on too tightly to what was never fully in your hands to begin with. We weren't designed to dominate every detail of life. We were meant to master our responses to it. And that's where detachment comes in, not as indifference, but as power, not caring less, but caring wisely. Because when you stop trying to force outcomes, you stop bleeding energy into the chaos. Let that sink in. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let go. So here's the question. What are you gripping so tightly today that's actually draining you? The illusion of control. Let's get honest for a second. How much of your anxiety, your frustration, your emotional exhaustion comes from trying to control things that were never yours to command? You plan everything down to the minute. You rehearse conversations in your head before they even happen. You overanalyze people's texts, their tone, their timing. You hold your breath, waiting for the world to go the way you want it to. And when it doesn't, you spiral. But here's the brutal truth. Control is an illusion, and it's one of the most dangerous ones you'll ever believe. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it best. There is only one way to happiness: stop worrying about things beyond your control. Most people hear that and nod in agreement, but they don't live it. Because deep down, we still believe that if we just try hard enough, plan well enough, stress long enough, we'll make life bend to our will. But it doesn't. And every time we try to force an outcome, convince a person, manipulate a future, fix something outside of us, we give away little pieces of our peace. We become puppets, pulled by strings we didn't even realize were attached to us. Think about it. If someone's bad mood ruins your day, if traffic makes you angry, if a cancelled plan breaks your spirit, you're not in control. You're being controlled. And that's the irony. The more you try to control, the more you're controlled by what you can't. But when you finally get this, really get it, something inside shifts. You stop playing a game you were never supposed to win. You step out of the chaos and into clarity. And no, this doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about the right thing, your response. That's the only thing that ever belonged to you, your thoughts, your choices, your energy. When you release the need to control everything around you, you start reclaiming authority over yourself. And from that place, you're dangerous, because you're no longer reacting. You're responding. You're no longer chasing peace, you're becoming it. So I want to ask you something real. What in your life are you clinging to right now that's outside your control? A person, a situation, an outcome. And how much is it costing you in sleep, in peace, in energy? What if letting go isn't losing, but finally winning? What if the key to real strength isn't in gripping tighter, but in surrendering wisely? This isn't weakness. This is warfare. This is how you stop being the puppet and become the one who holds the strings. So breathe, unclench your fists, loosen your grip, let go of what's not yours to carry, and take back the only thing that ever was, yourself. You are the only territory you truly own. Let's clear something up. You don't own your job. You don't own your relationships. You don't even own your past. At any moment, your job can vanish. People can walk away. The past can haunt you, but you can't rewrite it. So, what do you really have? What's left when everything else slips through your fingers? You, your mind, your thoughts, your inner world. That's it. That's the only real estate you will ever truly own. But here's the twist: most people spend their entire lives trying to manage the outside world, while completely neglecting the one place they actually have power over. They get angry when people don't act the way they want. They fall apart when a plan unravels. They question their worth when someone disrespects them. Why? Because they've built no fortress within. They've outsourced their peace to circumstances they can't control. But the Stoics, they saw through that illusion. They didn't pray for a perfect world. They trained for a broken one. They turned inward, not to escape reality, but to fortify themselves against it. Discipline, stillness, precision. That's the real power. To walk into chaos with a calm spirit, to face storms without begging for sunshine, to know that no one can shake you because you don't rely on anything outside to feel whole inside. You see, if your peace depends on someone else's behavior, you're not peaceful, you're fragile. If your sense of stability only exists when everything lines up, you're not grounded, you're at the mercy of the wind. But when you train your mind, when you become the master of your own domain, everything changes. Your silence becomes intentional, your reactions become rare, and your presence becomes powerful. You stop performing for the world. You stop begging for validation, and you start standing in your own truth, whether people see it or not. So ask yourself, how much of your emotional life is rented space? How much of your mood, your confidence, your identity is owned by people who don't even pay rent in your life anymore? It's time to reclaim your territory, to stop managing everything outside of you and start governing what's within you. Because when your peace lives inside, no one can steal it. When your worth is defined by you, no one can diminish it. The Stoic doesn't just survive in a messy world. He remains unshaken by it, because he knows the truth. You are the only kingdom you'll ever rule. Everything else is just weather, mental control. Build the fortress within. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you truly felt in control? Not of your schedule, not of your bank account, but of your mind. Not just the surface level. I've got this kind of control. I'm talking about deep mental stillness. The kind that doesn't shake when life slaps you in the face. Most people think strength means appearing confident, being productive, staying busy. But real strength, it starts in silence with how you manage the war going on inside your head. Because here's the truth. If you don't control your thoughts, someone else will, and if you don't guard your mind, the world will gladly fill it with distractions, fears, opinions, and noise. Imagine your mind as a fortress. Now, ask yourself, how many doors have you left open? How many people have keys they shouldn't have? How many emotions walk in uninvited? Rearrange the furniture and leave you feeling exhausted. This is what happens when you don't train for mental sovereignty. You react instead of reflect. You spiral instead of sit still. You cling to what's gone and worry about what hasn't even happened. But here's what the Stoics knew and what modern life has made us. Forget mental control is not about suppressing emotion. It's about filtering it. You don't have to become numb. You have to become deliberate. You choose what stays. You choose what goes. You decide which thoughts get to build a home in your mind and which ones get shown the door. Because an undisciplined mind is dangerous not just to the world, but to you. It can make you overthink a text message for hours. It can convince you that your worth depends on someone else's opinion. It can drag you into memories that hurt, or fears that haven't even come true. But a disciplined mind, it waits. It watches. It responds not out of panic, but out of principle. So the next time someone disrespects you, your fortress holds. The next time life throws chaos at you, you don't open the gate. You breathe, you assess, you act with precision, not emotion. That's power. That's control. That's what it means to be unshakable. And here's the wild thing. Most people broadcast every emotion they feel. They wear their insecurity like a badge. They overshare, overreact, and overexpose themselves thinking it makes them real. But you're learning to be quietly dangerous. You don't need to be loud. You need to be loaded. Every thought filtered, every reaction earned. Nothing enters unless you allow it. So I'll leave you with this. Is your mind a fortress, or is it a freeway open to every opinion? Fear and impulse. You get to choose. You can't always control what comes knocking, but you can decide who gets in. Build your walls, lock your gates, sharpen your awareness, because the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who holds their peace and never lets it be taken. The power of not reacting. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Every time you react, you give away power. Think about it. When someone pushes your buttons and you snap, when you rush to defend yourself, when you over-explain, beg, or lash out, you're not in control. You're being controlled. Most people walk through life like emotional landmines, say the wrong thing, and they explode. Ignore them, and they implode. It doesn't take much a bad look, a passive-aggressive comment, a mistext, and boom, their day is ruined. That's not power. That's programming. You press the right buttons, they react exactly as expected, predictable, manipulatable, weak. But the one who doesn't react, the one who stays still when everyone else flinches, that person is dangerous. Because you can't read them, you can't provoke them, you can't control someone who's mastered the art of holding their fire. That's what Stoicism teaches. Power isn't in loud responses, it's in silent restraint. The next time someone tries to get under your skin, don't give them the satisfaction of your reaction. The moment you flinch, you hand over the reins, but when you observe calmly, without emotion, you remain in command. See, reaction is defense, but observation, that's strategy. When you don't react, you're not avoiding conflict, you're positioning yourself above it. You're no longer a puppet on a string, you're the one pulling them. Silently, strategically, and when you finally speak, when you finally act, it's with precision, not because you're hurt, but because it's time. That's the difference between those who act from emotion and those who act from intention. Let me be clear. Not reacting doesn't mean you suppress how you feel. It means you own how you feel. You channel it, you hold it, you sharpen it, and you decide when and how to release it. It's not silence out of weakness. It's silence with teeth. So ask yourself, who in your life pushes your buttons the easiest? What situations make you react without thinking? How often are you leaking energy just trying to prove, defend, or explain yourself? And more importantly, what would happen if you simply stopped reacting? If you chose to say nothing, to do nothing until you decided it was worth it? You'd become unreadable, unpredictable, unshakable, because the less you respond, the more they wonder. And in that space of wondering, you own the room. That's how leaders move. That's how warriors wait. And that's how you become untouchable. So, next time the world throws something at you, don't throw your peace back at it. Hold it. Guard it. Let your calm become confusing. Let them wonder why their fire can't melt your ice. That's the power of not reacting. And once you master it, you stop playing the game and start controlling the board. Strategic detachment, the art of letting go, without losing yourself. Let's be honest. Most people confuse love with attachment. They confuse passion with control, and they confuse involvement with entanglement. But here's a truth that might sting a little. The more emotionally attached you are to things outside your control, the more power you give away. You care deeply about the outcome. You obsess over how others see you. You overextend, overcommit, and overexplain. Because some part of you still believes that if you just try hard enough, everything will work out the way you want. But it doesn't always. People leave plan collapse. Life throws curveballs that don't make sense and don't ask for permission. That's where strategic detachment comes in. Not apathy, not coldness, but clarity. Detachment means this: you're allowed to care, but not to the point where caring controls you. You're allowed to be involved, but not enslaved. You're allowed to feel, but not drown. Because here's the shift. When you start choosing where your energy goes, intentionally, purposefully, everything changes. You stop leaking life force into black holes. You stop chasing broken things, trying to fix what's never been yours to fix. You stop trying to rescue people who don't want to be saved. You zoom out. You breathe. You act with precision, not panic. Let's say you're in a relationship that drains you. Strategic detachment doesn't mean ghosting or cutting off overnight. It means you stop needing them to validate you. You stop molding yourself to keep the peace. You stay in your truth. Even if it makes things uncomfortable, or maybe it's your job. You give your best, yes, but you stop tying your worth to your performance or your manager's approval. You show up strong, but you leave your identity at the door. That's detachment. It's choosing peace over panic, purpose over people-pleasing. It's not about being heartless. It's about being selective with your heart. Because energy is currency, and most people are broke because they spend it on everything that doesn't serve their mission. You want to know real strength? It's when you can walk away, not out of fear, but out of discipline. When you can care deeply and still let go when it's time. Ask yourself, what are you holding on to today that no longer aligns with who you're becoming? Where are you giving energy that isn't giving back? What are you emotionally invested in that's keeping you from peace? Detachment doesn't mean you give up. It means you stop bleeding for what's not yours. It means you learn to walk light, to cut clean, to stay connected without being consumed. And once you master that, once you learn to detach with love, with strength, with purpose, you become fast where others are frozen, calm where others collapse, clear where others cling. That's strategic detachment. Not someday, not later, now. Because if it costs your peace, if it distracts from your mission, if it weakens your edge, it doesn't belong in your mind. So let it go, quietly, cleanly, completely, and walk forward lighter, sharper, free. Dominance through absence, the power of withdrawing strategically. Let me offer a perspective you don't hear very often. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to disappear, not out of bitterness, not to prove a point, but because your presence has become too accessible, too expected, too taken for granted in a world that's addicted to attention, always online, always reacting, always proving. The person who pulls back becomes a mystery, and mystery is leverage. We've been conditioned to believe that dominance means being everywhere, loud, visible, active, but that's not power. That's noise. Real power is silent. It's the storm that builds in stillness. It's the tension you feel when someone vanishes, not in weakness, but in mastery, because presence creates routine, but absence, it creates reflection. When you're always available, people stop listening, but when you pull away physically, emotionally, mentally, they notice, they feel the shift, they start questioning, did I go too far? Why did they stop showing up? Are they done with me? And here's the twist. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is the uncertainty, because that uncertainty becomes a mirror. And in that silence, most people aren't ready to face their own reflection when you no longer explain yourself, no longer respond to provocation, no longer show up to defend your worth. You create space, and space is where your presence gains weight. You stop playing defense, you stop being reactive, and you start reclaiming your energy, piece by piece. Think of a lion. It doesn't chase, it doesn't roar unnecessarily. It waits. And when it moves, it's final. That's you now. You're not disappearing to hide. You're disappearing to reset the balance. Because most people gain power through your presence, through your reaction, your words, your energy. Take that away and watch how quickly their advantage dissolves. Let them wonder. Let them stew in the silence. Let your absence speak in ways your presence never could. And no, this isn't petty. It's positioning. It's choosing not to waste your breath, explaining yourself to those who never really listened. It's pulling back from conversations that always end the same. It's refusing to be entertainment for people who never valued your substance. So ask yourself, where in your life are you overexposed? Who depends too much on your reaction to feel in control? What if you simply stepped back and said nothing? Because silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. And absence isn't retreat. It's elevation. Let them feel the loss. Let them experience the gap. And when they realize that your presence wasn't just noise, it was structure, you've already won. You're not cold. You're calculating. You're not emotional. You're exact. You don't owe them a performance. You owe yourself peace. So step back. Pull the plug. Let the silence echo louder than any speech. And remember, when you disappear with purpose, you return with power, the unreadable mind. When mystery becomes your power, let me ask you something you may have never considered. If people can read you, they can reach you. And if they can reach you, they can control you. That's not just about manipulation. That's about access. Because in today's world, most people leave their emotions wide open. Their thoughts are predictable. Their insecurities are exposed. Their energy, it leaks everywhere. You say something slightly off. They get defensive. You delay a reply. They spiral. You pull away. They chase harder. You know why? Because most minds are transparent. You can see right through them. But not you. Because you're learning the art of the unreadable mind. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop bleeding emotion in public. It means you stop handing people a map to your weaknesses, to your fears, your doubts, your insecurities. Let's be real. How often have you overshared with someone who didn't deserve your honesty? How many times have you spoken just to fill the silence and regretted every word after? The Stoics understood something modern life often forgets. Silence is not just strength, it's strategy. The more you reveal, the more they learn how to move you. And if they can move you, they own you. But when you become unreadable, when your mind becomes a vault, you stop being a pawn. You become the game. Imagine this. You walk into a room and say less. You don't defend. You don't explain. You don't rush to prove anything. You simply observe, and suddenly, everyone else starts adjusting around you. Because you're calm. You're silent. You're steady. And that's unnerving to people who depend on reaction to feel important. You become unpredictable. You become misunderstood. And that's where the real power begins. See, mystery isn't confusion. Mystery is control. It makes them wonder. It makes them guess. It makes them uncomfortable in the best possible way. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world, not your fears, not your goals, not your next move. You want to be powerful, be unreadable. Let them think they know you. Let them assume. Let them fill in the blanks with their own projections, because every moment they spend trying to decode you, they're revealing themselves instead, and that's the twist. When your mind is unreadable, you start to see everything clearly, not because you talk more, but because you listen deeper. You learn who's genuine and who's just loud. You learn who's watching you for weakness and who's watching to grow with you. And most importantly, you learn how to move through the world without being moved by it. So ask yourself, where are you giving away too much of your mind? Who knows too much about your struggles and has done nothing but use them against you? What would happen if you stopped narrating your every thought? I'll tell you. What happens? You become the question, the variable, the silence they can't solve. And that's power, not because you're cold, but because you're in control. They can't read what you never wrote. They can't reach what you've locked away. You don't just become harder to manipulate, you become impossible to break, the untouchable state, becoming emotionally unbreakable. Let me ask you a question that might change your life. What if you stopped needing to be understood, to be liked, to be validated, loved, or even noticed? What if you didn't chase closure, didn't explain your silence, didn't flinch every time someone pulled away? What would that version of you look like? Here's what most people don't realize. We think freedom comes from having more success, more love, more approval, but true freedom, it begins the moment you let go of the need to be anything for anyone. That's what I call the untouchable state. It's not cold, it's not numb, it's disciplined, it's clear. It's when you no longer react from insecurity, no longer beg to be seen, no longer base your peace on someone else's behavior. It's when your worth doesn't rise or fall with someone else's opinion. It's when you don't chase love, you become love. You embody peace. You radiate calm, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've made peace your baseline, because you've trained your mind to be self-led. Look, this world will constantly test your boundaries. It will poke at your wounds, challenge your self-image, and dare you to break. But when you're in the untouchable state, you don't break. You don't bend. You hold. You lose people, but you stay grounded. You get misunderstood, but you don't chase clarity. You're insulted, underestimated, disrespected, and still you remain unshaken. Because reaction, that's leverage, and you don't give leverage away for free anymore. You've earned your stillness. You've built it brick by brick through late-night heartbreaks, through silent battles, through choosing growth over comfort. This isn't emotional suppression. It's emotional sovereignty. You're not cold, you're calibrated. You're not detached, you're selective. You've just learned that peace is too expensive to hand out on discount. So when people try to trigger you, let them. When they try to provoke you, let them wonder why it doesn't work. Because the person who needs nothing is the one who can't be broken. The Stoics called it apatheia, a mind undisturbed. Modern society calls it emotionally unavailable, but I call it dangerous in the best way possible. Because when the world can't shake you, you become a force. People don't know how to manipulate what they can't read. They don't know how to rattle someone who doesn't flinch. They don't know how to overpower someone who doesn't need anything from them. So let me ask you again. What if you stopped chasing softness from a hard world? What if you became the storm you were running from? What if your silence was louder than their shouting? The untouchable state isn't about winning. It's about transcending. You stop fighting battles that no longer serve you. You stop chasing people who were never meant to walk beside you. And you stop begging for the things that you've already found within yourself. Because you're not here to prove, you're here to be. And when you are unshaken, undistracted, unbothered, you become untouchable. Master yourself, not tomorrow, not someday, now. So here we are. If you've made it this far, you already know this journey wasn't about motivation. It wasn't about hype or hustle or trying to win life. It was about something deeper, something quieter, something most people never even attempt: mastery of self. Because once you master you, the world starts to feel different. You stop reacting to every trigger. You stop chasing things that drain you. You stop performing for an audience that was never watching anyway. Let's be real. Most people are exhausted not because life is too hard, but because they keep trying to control everything outside of themselves. They carry people's opinions like bricks in a backpack. They tie their identity to things that shift with the wind: jobs, titles, followers, relationships. But the truth, none of that defines you. You do, and no one, I mean no one, can break a person who doesn't give them permission to. That's what Stoicism teaches us. That's what emotional mastery demands. Not to be cold, but to be clear. Not to be numb, but to be disciplined. You are not here to impress. You are here to become unshakable. So, starting today, not next week, not when I'm ready, but now, stop reacting out of emotion. Not everything deserves your response. Silence can be sharper than words. Stop trying to control what was never yours. Let go of the outcomes. Hold the intention. Release the grip. Start building your inner fortress, brick by brick, thought by thought, until nothing gets in, unless you say so. Because you're not just trying to survive this world, you're learning how to stand still inside it. You're not fighting to be seen, you're choosing to see yourself clearly. Even when others don't, and if no one claps for your growth, keep growing anyway. If no one notices your discipline, stay disciplined anyway. If no one thanks you for your strength, be strong anyway. Why? Because this isn't about them. It never was. This is about you. Choosing you, honoring your peace, protecting your energy, sharpening your focus, becoming someone that chaos cannot shake. So, I'll leave you with this. Say it out loud. Write it down. Breathe it in like a vow. I am untouchable because I choose myself. My peace is not a negotiation. I am not here to impress. I am here to become unshakable. Let that be your code. Let that be your compass. Let that be your legacy. From this moment on, you are not waiting. You are not explaining. You are not reacting. You are mastering. And that changes everything.